A lot of these disgusting chomos, they like to play the mental card.
They do seem to have like a childlike persona.
Like, no, you don't talk to her like that. Like, you don't know who her dad is. Like, I don't even know who my daddy is.
You collapse a dude's knee, it does not matter how big he is. It really is like
It's
grooming.
exactly like grooming. You're grooming a duck.
I love that you use the term duck because that's such a convict thing to say.
Whenever I think of working in a jail, I think of the smell of peanut butter, onions, and crap.
People will use their feces and they'll do murals on the wall. I actually saw one mural that was actually fairly decent.
But he was just sitting there playing in it and like, it's like pudding. It's like, oh,
And the dude had drawn a cat and he kept in his cell repeatedly going, here, kitty, 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 kitty. Hey, welcome.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
Will you tell the people what it is that you do for work?
I'm currently a cop. I work in law enforcement, full-blown patrol officer, and I also work part-time part of an FBI task force for child sex trafficking.
That is so amazing. And I know that you're limited on what you can speak about with that, but what do you feel comfortable telling us about that?
Well, I have a lot of pending open cases right now.
So what does that look like as far as starting an investigation, and where do you get your information? Do you have people that call in with tips, or do you put out bait?
We typically put out bait. Federally, like whenever the FBI are working cases like that, they do bait. But then also if there's crimes that have occurred locally, like in like a department has those, but like if they've gone across state lines and stuff, typically the FBI will take those over as well. People think they're safe going across state lines.
Doesn't that make the charges much more severe when you're going across state lines, or is that only if you take the child or victim across state lines?
When you take the child or victim across state lines, because it's automatically federal.
Just a roundabout estimate, when you bust somebody in one of these busts, how much time do you think they're generally looking at?
Sometimes like they get off on deals, unfortunately. And a lot of these disgusting chomos, they like to play the mental card, and they play upon their mental capacity. And unfortunately, it works in their favor a lot, more than you think. But typically, like 10 to 20 years sometimes been the most. Unless it's like multiple offenses.
I've seen the mental card be played a lot, assaulting chomos, and they do seem to have like a childlike almost persona that they put out there. And it kind of makes me wonder if that's who they actually are.
Like their mental capacity.
Yeah, like their IQ is their shoe size. Personally, myself, I don't believe that pedophiles are people. I think they're creatures.
Yeah, they're creatures. They're monsters.
So you guys, I recently partnered with MyHeritage.com because I wanted to learn more about my ancestors and my Irish family back home. MyHeritage is the #1 family service, and it's easy and fun to build your family tree and learn more about your origin. Dude, I made a discovery that is so legit. I got a match on my father's mom's side with a historical Irish rebel who was fighting against the British and their tyranny in Ireland. His name was the Father John Murphy, and he led the Irish rebels into battle in a famous battle in Ireland called the Battle of Vinegar Hill. And unfortunately, he was caught by the British shortly after the battle, and they hanged him, decapitated him, burned his body in a barrel full of tar, and impaled his head on a spike. But even after being tortured and sentenced to death, he never snitched on his homies. But he was such a boss that there are literally statues of him in Ireland right now. People have written books on him, and I found multiple YouTube videos telling me all about his life story. I went and searched old pictures of him. Not only did MyHeritage allow me to put it into color, it also allowed me to animate it as well. But I wouldn't have known any of that without MyHeritage. So go to MyHeritage.com today to start your free 14-day trial, build your own family tree, and find out about your ancestry, because you never know what you might find. And I'll drop a link in the description and in the comments to help you get there. You've also worked in a prison or a jail setting?
A jail, like a county jail, yeah.
So you were a correctional officer? Okay, that's amazing. So I'm not trying to put you on blast here, and I mean this absolutely respectfully. Don't give me that look.
Okay.
I saw the mom look come out.
Okay.
Okay, but you are not like a tall or large woman. And a lot of the correctional officers I'm used to were much larger women, like bigger shoulders than me, linebacker status. Going in your first day to work, were you working in the woman's side or the men's side of the facility?
It was a mix.
Okay. And was that intimidating to you?
No.
No, you just walked in there?
Yeah. I held my own.
Okay. So what would you say was your mindset going in?
I did have small man syndrome, okay? But like I had this mindset of, like somebody your size. If you're trying to come at me, like let's say like if we were to fight right now, I would automatically win. Because you're already underestimating me.
The person who hit me the hardest in my life was much smaller than me. And the reason that he was able to get such a clean shot on me was because I was underestimating him. So that's a real life thing. I'm going to give you a personal tip because we're best friends now. If it's a dude my size or bigger, go for their knees because every single
Use
one of
their
us
weight
has bad
against
knees.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. You collapse a dude's knee, it does not matter how big he is, and we all have bad knees, sis. What would you say is some of your scariest scenarios that you've been in while working as a correctional officer?
Oh, wow. I about got like thrown off a balcony one time. That was kind of scary. He had me like backed up and I didn't know what was going to happen.
And how did that pan out?
A guy broke out of their cell and he helped, but
So you had another inmate come and help you when you were being attacked by an inmate. Was it just a mental health situation? Was it personal? Why was he coming after you?
well, looking back on it, I think it was like a skit that the whole pod was doing to try to like play the hero, and because pods all work together is like the greater good, and I feel like they were trying to like start some games with me.
Okay, let's talk about games because I can imagine that you were a very popular correctional officer in there and that somebody probably tried you along the line. Was that something that you experienced very often?
I did. I've experienced it before.
And what was that like for you?
Well, luckily later on I was able to like learn from it and see the process of everything, because inmate games, it's textbook. It's completely textbook. It's nothing but a mind game, and it's through stages.
It is really, it's like grooming.
It is.
It really is like
It's
grooming.
exactly like grooming. You're grooming a duck,
Yeah.
per se.
I love that you use the term duck because that's such a convict thing to say. But yeah, it is grooming. You start with something small and non-threatening and you test the waters.
And holding it above their head.
Yeah.
Nonstop along the way.
Being someone who was in prison and actually in a gang and worked with some correctional officers, you know, there were some that you really kind of had to sort of groom along to, you know, do things. And then there's other correctional officers who know that they're underpaid, know that they're overworked, they don't like their job, and they don't want to be, you know, 60 years old working there. There's correctional officers that will actually approach inmates and be
Really?
like, so what's up? What are we doing? We bringing in, you know, you want some heroin? Can we start doing ounces? And there's some people
Like the
that are
officers
like that.
come to them.
Yeah, to certain gang members that they know are not going to snitch them out. Myself, I didn't want to dabble with drugs. I was a hardcore addict on the streets, but when I went in, I tried doing drugs that I liked from the streets 2 or 3 times in prison. It was miserable. Being up for 3 days straight in a prison setting is not like being up for 3 days straight on the streets,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
And I
So-
hate those people that do that, though, that like do drugs while they're in jail. And like, and it just infuriates. Like, how dare you be that person that like somebody has the opportunity to get clean and they want to sit there and dangle the drugs in front of their face? Like, how, like, I can't stand when people do that.
Now, tobacco, I definitely that was my hustle, and it was super lucrative.
To make lots of money.
Yeah, to make lots of money, and you know, be able to have your box constantly always full and everything. I wasn't really trying to have to rely on people any more than I needed to from the outside. So you know, everybody has to have a hustle while you're locked up. Some people will wash other dudes' socks and underwear in their sink. I can't do it. I cannot get myself to do that. I tried to limit my exposure to being there for any longer, and if I was going to get any extra time, I wanted it to be for beating up a chomo.
There you go. Yeah.
While you were working in there, did you ever come across anything disgusting? Any finger painters, any gunslingers, any of those types of experience? I know it's probably not what you want to talk about, but
There was a lot of situations. Like, I mean, whenever I think of working in a jail, I think of the smell of peanut butter, onions, and crap. Like, that's exactly what it smells like. And like, there were several times there was people finger painting. And I remember this one guy, like the sprinkler. Luckily, the sprinkler head was popped because it kind of worked in our favor, helped get the crap off the walls.
Yeah.
But he was just sitting there playing in it and like, it's like pudding. And I was like, oh.
for those of you at home who don't know what finger painting is, we're not talking about actual paints. We're talking about people will use their feces and they'll do murals on the wall. I actually saw one mural that was actually fairly decent. You could tell there was a sun and some trees, and the dude had drawn a cat, and he kept in his cell repeatedly going, "Here, kitty, 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 kitty," and he was talking. I was in the next cell. All I knew was it smelled bad, and this dude's calling a cat. I'm like, there's no cats in here, bro. What are you going through? He had drawn a cat on the wall in his own doo-doo. And then they told me they'd move me to worker dorm if I cleaned it. And I said, I'll sit here forever. I'm not cleaning that. You're out of your mind, dog. Often female COs have to deal with people gunslinging. And for those of you at home, gunsling is where somebody will masturbate to a female officer or a nurse or any type of staff when they come in. Did you ever have to encounter any of that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And whenever I was a fresh CO, like I would, like, if I'm sitting, like if I'm like parallel with somebody looking at them, you know, I can tell what they're doing. Even though I'm looking at their face, I can see what's going on down here. And I was riding people up left and right. Like I couldn't believe it. And then it got to the point, like if I did this every single freaking time, for one, I'm giving them the attention they want because I'm the one going to serve the ride up. I'm giving them the attention they want. But I ended up telling even new CEOs because they were like, oh my God, he showed me his penis. Do you know how many penises I've seen working in the jail?
How many? Because I've seen more than I think like even OnlyFans models have seen. I've seen all the penises.
Like
having
zero.
Just been an inmate. You saw zero.
You can't see what you don't look at.
Eyes are up here.
Exactly.
Eyes up here.
You can't see what you don't look at.
So would you still wrote some of them up though?
At the beginning.
Because I think that's such disgusting predatory behavior.
It is.
And I don't know what the politics where you were at were. I can't imagine they were too severe being county, but you know, on the West Coast, the politics, if somebody is gunslinging a female on one of your units, as soon as you get the chance to put hands on them, we're beating the shit out of them and teaching them some respect for women. We don't tolerate that, not a lick. Did you ever have inmates stick up for you in that type of way?
Oh yes, absolutely. I don't really have a relationship with my dad, but my dad had like a huge reputation where I worked at. And I had people always like, no, you don't talk to her like that. Like, you don't know who her dad is. Like, I don't even know who my daddy is. And they would take up for me, like, in that standpoint.
I can tell you right now from a convict's perspective, your daddy might have had a reputation and everything, but they still wouldn't have stuck up for you if you weren't a good correctional officer.
Thank you.
Like that isn't just a reflection on your dad's reputation. Now, was he well known for being a cop or for being a criminal?
A criminal. He was not a cop at all.
So you don't come from a family of law enforcement.
No. I come
Okay.
from a history of addicts.
So another form of breaking the generational curse.
Yes, absolutely.
That's so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds like you've seen some hairy situations. Have you ever gotten in a physical altercation besides the inmate trying to push you off the...
I would say the worst physical altercation. I mean, okay, let me say this. Anytime I'm in a situation with a tiny little squirrely crackhead, which happens a lot, those are terrible. I would rather fight a big guy all day. But I was working in the jail, and I was on like a transport, and I was sitting with an inmate at the hospital. And he had stent put in his leg, so he couldn't wear shackles. He crapped the bed. It always has something to do with crap.
Always.
And I should have seen that as a red flag. And so he wanted to shower. And he had surgery. He had stents put in his legs. And this guy, he was on roids. Like, he used to do like body shows and stuff. And then all of a sudden decided he wanted to like do meth. Like, and he was like really roided up. And so I handcuffed him, and I shut the door. And he showered. He came out, and he's like wearing like just his little underwear. And as I went to put the cuff on his hands, he rose up and he hit me in the face and just took off down the hall.
Can you show me how he hit you in the face again? Was it like really like that effeminate?
No, like I was putting the cuffs on him, and he just like straight up just like punches me in the face with the cuffs.
Oh no.
And I took off after him in the hall. And at this point, I worked in corrections, and I was not a supervisor. I did not carry a taser at this point. And I had pepper spray, cuffs, a radio, and my gun. That's it. Mm-hmm. And they don't really teach COs in the beginning, like weapon retention and stuff. And I couldn't spray my pepper spray because I was on a surgical floor. I used a little bit of sense. Exactly. Yeah. And I was able, in this short amount of span, like I was able to logically, like if I draw my weapon, he can easily disarm me. I know nothing about weapon retention. And so I fought. And luckily, like backup came, and I never once drew my weapon. Because I wasn't taught retention, like I didn't know.
And you were able to hold it down on this dude.
Yeah, I was.
Well played.
Until backup got there, and I kept fighting him as much as I could.
So you've worked with both men and women in corrections. Where would you prefer? Would you prefer to be working on the female side or the male side?
I have a heart for women. That doesn't mean I'm a lesbian. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I didn't.
But I have a heart to want to help women in bad situations and help them see like there's a way out. Like, you don't have to live like this.
Did you feel safer on the women's side?
No, not really.
I feel like you just don't have a lot of regard for your own personal safety. I feel like you just totally know that you're a badass and you're confident.
Well, I like there you try to perceive it that way. Like, people thought that I was like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I've maybe taken like a few, like I do jiu-jitsu, but like not a lot.
You know what's crazy is I assumed you were a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. As soon as you walked in the door, I was like, that's
it's
a brown
all
belt.
in how you carry yourself.
It is 100%. Like, you walk in the room before your body actually gets there. It's about how you carry yourself.
I think I'm a lot bigger than I am.
I always get asked this every time. Do females hold the same sort of disdain and want for violence when it comes to child predators that men do while they're incarcerated?
Yes. It's like a lot of people that had like accidents and stuff with their children, like causing like their children's death. It was rough. We don't really get like a lot of child predators like with the women, but they have the same mindset like towards the men, like it's just dirty monsters.
Did you ever check somebody's charges?
Yeah.
Yeah? You've seen some really dark stuff, haven't you?
I have.
How does that affect your mental health? I mean, especially with what you're doing now, you know, I know that you have to see some of the worst sides of humanity and inhumanity.
Yeah.
How does that affect your mental health, and what do you do for yourself with that?
It took me a long time to realize that like it's healthy and okay to talk about it instead of like burying it in. But some of the charges, like it messed with me sometimes. Like a lot, I would do it for like the safety of myself to like look up their charges. But there was some charges that really bothered me. There was a guy that actually shot someone in the back of the head. And he told me one day, whenever I was like outside of his cell, like we were like serving a write-up or something. He said something to me and it made me so mad. And I was like, "You're such a creep. Just shut up. Just shut up." And he was like, "Now, Miss Reagan, a creep would be someone that creeps in your window at night and watches you sleep." And months later, I started having sleep paralysis. And that was one thing that stuck with me. After like a lot of stuff that I've seen, that was one thing that bothered me the most. And I seen him, he was standing in my window, just waving at me, watching me sleep. And I was going through like a sleep paralysis state, and I'm just like, ugh. And I could see him standing there.
Like a night terror?
Yeah. And I've also had like, and I don't know why, like my mind does that, but like I've also had a dream of the same, like he really bothered me, where I ran and he shot the guy in the back of the head. But I had a dream where I was running and he shot me in the back of the head.
I don't think that people understand how much people that work in law enforcement, both in corrections and, you know, out on the street, I don't think people really can ever understand the weight that puts on somebody. You know, and I've done a lot of, baiting myself when it comes to chomos and exposing them. And the things that I saw enough, like I was in a good place in my life. My mental health was good. I was clean and sober and had been for a while. And it hurt my head and my heart so bad that I ended up going into a very dark place. I ended up relapsing. It took me out in a real bad way. So the way that you're able to stay on your feet and keep working towards what you feel like, do you feel like this child trafficking thing is your purpose?
Is it okay if I get spiritual?
Absolutely.
I feel like since it's something that has held generations of my women silent, like I feel like that is a demonic spirit that has held those women captive. And I feel like I'm the one that's called to rise up and face that giant, not just for like other people, but like for my generation and my family. Like I feel like I'm meant to do that and fight that.
I 100% love that. Thank you so much
Yes,
for your time
thank
today.
you. Thank you
really
so much.
appreciate it.
Don't forget to check out the link down in the description of this video for your free 14-day trial of MyHeritage.com. Who knows, you might be related to somebody really cool like me.